Use ruffles as an accent on pillows, or you could insert ruffles to the hem of a little girl's dress, or add ruffles to a jacket to frame and flatter around the neckline. No matter where ruffles are added, make them edgy with the help of your serger. Use a rolled edge stitch for a casual look, or a wave stitch for an elegant ruffle finish. Either way, your serger can help you add an artistic touch to your next sewing project. I'd like to show you how. If you have a serger, make certain that you use it to finish the edges of ruffles. It's a great way to do it. We're going to work first of all with the rolled edge stitch. The pattern that I'm wearing and the jackets that you'll see in this little segment are from Indigo Junction, designed by Marianne Donzi. The London jacket is ideal for this project. You notice the ruffles cascading around the neckline, a great serger finish. When working with a serger and the ruffles and this particular pattern, the fabric is cut in the bias. And with working on the bias, often what happens is that you'll get little pokies along the edge when doing the rolled edge stitch. The technique that I like to use is place a 1-inch strip or so of wash-away on top of the fabric. I like to use the wash-away Avalon film, and you can see that it finishes the edge and gets rid of those extra little fabrics that you do not want poking around the edges. So cut those strips, cut the Avalon stabilizer into 1-inch strips. It's wash away, but we're actually just going to tear it away. Now on my machine, choose threads that coordinate with your fabric. I've chosen all-purpose serger thread in the right needle, upper looper, and lower looper. With Baby Lock's Evolution, you have extraordinary threading, where you can thread both the upper looper and lower looper at the same time. It's really a great feature. There are threading ports where I've placed the ends of the threads in the upper looper and lower looper threading port. The lever is down into the threading position, which automatically closes the ports where the thread is going to thread through the machine. And then all I have to do is push the button and everything is threaded. The upper looper, the lower looper, and I'm just ready to tuck the threads to the back of the presser foot. After tucking the threads to the back, then the next step is to disengage the threading mechanism and set up your machine for a rolled edge stitch. Check your owner's manual. For my machine, I'm placing the stitch selector in the D position. I've shortened my stitch length and have a narrow width. And you'll do some testing. It's all about testing when working with sergers. Now I can close the doors and have my fabric. And with the fabric, I'm going to place the stabilizer on top of the fabric. And I'm going to be serging off 1/8 of an inch or 1/4 of an inch from the fabric. That will assure a really clean finished edge. And so just guide the fabric as you stitch. Just guide it so that you're trimming off just a small amount of fabric. Now you may want to check your pattern, because having the pattern, the width, it may call for a 1/4 of an inch seam allowance, so then trim off a 1/4, or it may call for a 1/2 of an inch. Regardless, do a little trimming and make sure that you are sewing over the stabilizer. And just keep serging. And as you're serging, and I'm pulling this to the front, you will see that it has a very nice edge. We'll get rid of the needle thread, there we are, and there's a very clean edge. Now you don't want the stabilizer there, and it's not necessary to use water. You can just tear it away. It's light enough, and what a lovely finish. Do the same stitching on the opposite side of the ruffle so that both sides are finished, and now I'll show you how to use your serger to do the gathering. For those of you who have options of working with a chain stitch or a cover stitch on your serger, now is the time to utilize it to do the gathering of the ruffles. I have my machine set up for the chain stitch. Now there are some changes you're going to be doing. The needle is going to be placed through the chain needle areas, and I'm going to be using the center slot. You can use left, center, and right. I'm using the center, and I've tightened the tension almost all the way to the tightest setting. That's a very critical area for gathering. And I have the needle threaded. And then following through, instead of an upper looper or a lower looper, there's a cover stitch looper, and that's the looper I'm going to be working with. I have the end of the thread about 1 inch in the porthole. I'm going to place this to the threading position, Turn until the portholes close, and then, as you might guess, you just press the button and it automatically threads that area. Now as we look at the area where the tension is controlled for the chain stitch, it's at the tightest, almost the tightest setting for the chain stitch. Now you're going to do some experimentation. You're going to test this out, but we found for this fabric we needed it quite tight. The stitch selector is at letter A. Now you're going to check with your owner's manual for the best settings, but that's where my owner's manual tells me to place it. For a cover stitch and chain stitch, you're going to be having a special plate that covers the area. I'm going to place this back into the serging mode and cover it. And then one of the final steps to do is to adjust the differential feed. Now that's a dial on the side of my machine. Usually it's across from N from the normal setting where the feed dogs bite the fabric and ease it through at a normal pace. We're going to tighten the differential feed to its tightest setting so that it gathers, where you see the little gathering area. And now we should be ready to do the serging. Now to stitch down the center, you may want to mark the center or just sew down the center. And with the tightened tension, the differential feed at its tightest position, the fabric automatically ruffles or gathers. But a fast way of creating a ruffled edge. If you had really heavy fabric, you may have to stitch a second time, but I think this is just a great way of creating a ruffle. Rolled edge stitch, chain stitch tightened to gather. Now you could attach the ruffle to your jacket. It's as simple as that. I have another technique I could share with you for a different edgy treatment with this ruffle. Another edgy ruffle option is to use the wave stitch found on a Baby Lock Evolution Serger. I've used different color thread in the lower looper to give the variegated look, but it's done with a rolled edge stitch and a special setting on the machine. I've reset my serger so that I have again a rolled edge stitch. And as I look at the thread, that's where the differences are going to occur. The needle, the right needle, and the upper looper I've used all-purpose Madeira airfill thread, but when it comes to the lower looper, I wanted something a little bit more dramatic. So I used a texturized nylon serger thread. You can see it's noticeably heavier in weight. Do a little testing of your machine as far as stitch length, but also if you are working with a machine that has the option for a wave stitch, change it from an overlock to a wave. It will bring the lower looper thread to the front and alternate it with the upper looper thread, giving that variegated look. I do like to use matching thread in the needle and the upper looper and then contrasting thread in the lower looper. And when I do the stitching, just as before, I will guide the fabric underneath the presser foot, trimming off 1/8 of an inch, perhaps 1/4 of an inch, and trying to be consistent. The stitch length is relatively short, about 1.5 to 2 in the rolled edge settings. And as I do a little serging, just evenly stitch, taking off the same amount of excess fabric. When I pull the finished serger edge to the front, you can see that that edge is changed because the lower looper is waving around to the front. As before, you just remove the stabilizer by tearing it off. If there are little extra stabilizers left, you could spritz it with water, but usually that's not needed. It's a great look to an edge, and it gives a very elegant finish. You do the same stitching along the other side of the ruffle, and then gather using your chain stitch. Two great ways of having edgy ruffles. I hope you've enjoyed learning how to use your serger to create edgy ruffles. To learn more about the products used in this video, along with my favorite machines, visit your participating Baby Lock retailer. Tell them Nancy sent you.